This conference will now be recorded.
Yeah, they give you anti-diarrhea.
I have so many questions in here.
Easy.
Yeah. My first one is, I didn't know there was an Ennis auto parts anymore.
Park City.
Yeah.
And just leave it on.
Oh,
Like, you have both, like 21 days on
I was
and
wondering,
a
okay.
week off. So her
Thank you
week
for
off, she
clarifying
kind
that.
of gains her weight back.
I didn't get into an EIN, she dropped
Change
it.
the color of the building. Yeah, she's doing pills. She does an infusion the first day.
And then you
So
move
the
the extra
infusion
600 from
antibiotics,
the
Steroids. And then
attorney.
steroids for 2 more
Town
days.
civil.
And then pills. 4 pills a
So
month,
we
4
pay
pills a
him
night.
his,
the
March, April usually the highest ones.
Yeah, it's like all kinds of like.
and then the 600 is what he gets for reviewing everything that I send him. So he reviewed quite a bit.
You had it busy.
So super low
For
dose.
you?
You had it busy, okay.
Does he do the infusion?
That's what the snowmobiles are for.
I know, but,
Okay.
Yeah.
got my vehicle.
Yeah.
Is the HOA plow there like ours? They don't plow at all, but they plow like to the airport to the county, but our HOA is awful.
So the Shining Mountains Loop Road is county, and it's a bus route, but all the other.
Turkey
It
sandwiches.
doesn't bother me.
Yeah.
I can fly.
Almost there.
It's good. Right before Christmas, she went to Minnesota to have the grandkids. And then we tried to go to Boise, but those were closed. But they came up here.
Oh, good.
So she's kind of seen all the grandkids.
When do we go B?
Good, man.
When do we go B? Size wise, from C to B
Oh,
over at the school. They're saying that we're gonna have to go up to B
Oh,
again.
next year they said.
Next year?
Yeah.
Darn it. I'm like, oh,
I think next year, but we'll stay.
yeah, I heard that.
Casey thinks next year, right now, it'll just depend on enrollment of being in school, I think, but he said next year. I think we're gonna have a modular classroom next year too. I'm super bummed that Vaughn didn't pass. We're screwed.
Me too.
We're screwed.
It wasn't
We're
even
screwed.
like close numbers.
it was not close at all.
But we're screwed because the prices are just gonna go up. And if this guy has a way to weasel out, we won't get any money. And it'll be like 2 million or 25 bucks per house. That.
For a wedding at the Don Cigar Hotel, or the wedding.
And maybe I should have fought more on Facebook. I'm just not a Facebook fighter.
For.
The school bond. There was a lot of misinformation. There was a lot of. And I'm sorry, but all you people moved here, you need to pay for infrastructure.
Yeah.
And it's the same with the ambulance comes around. Oh, why would I pay for ambulance and get a bill? What happens when
Always do
I-
that. Explore that coast.
Did you get to see the end?
It's a whole different feel.
Yes, we won.
Than the other.
6-19 because Isabel had the ball at the very, very end and
Oh, yeah.
shot it for that final, but she didn't make it.
Hawkinson?
Really? Okay.
Yes. Her extra generous. Did you see that?
Did you look at these online?
No.
Oh, the agenda. Here, you can have this one.
Oh, okay.
I do.
All the time.
I didn't have one, but I did get
And
one.
I just don't know. I don't because I'm scared of them.
Take over the spot. How are you guys? I just.
Oh, yeah. Check. Oh, no, I didn't have zoning. I got one.
Okay.
No.
Wisely. Hi, Sue.
Sorry.
Zoning report.
Me. That's why she's
A
here.
zoning report.
Yeah, Susie.
I'm breaking up if you have to hear real quick.
I'm just trying to organize.
It was both. I was like, okay, so it's not mine.
That's
I mean,
that's what my house is.
I did tell.
I wish my house was that organized.
Me too.
It's exactly
Yeah,
7
that's
o'clock.
when I start to have lunch.
7 o'clock, we can get this. Once Brittany's back.
Get going.
With the public hearing.
So now that I have some of
Yeah. All right. So we are back to the first reading of ordinance 145, repealing and replacing the noise from Title 11, Chapter 4, Section 5J of the Ennis Town Code, and replacing it with noise ordinance Title 6, Chapter 8, Section 1. Public comment. Going twice?
Brittany,
Did you hit record? Okay.
I never heard it. That's why I'm asking.
I know, it didn't say it, but it says
Okay.
recording.
Sorry, I'm not.
Anything from anybody online? As there's no public comment, we can move on to 146.
Picture up there. One of us
Is
is
this,
like.
that's the noise ordinance?
It's
Yes.
supposed to be like that.
We don't have anything to say about it?
It
There's
says
no
public comment, John.
Oh, just
comment.
public
Yeah.
comment. Okay, no
public
problem.
hearing. And number 146, repealing and replacing the district minimums and maximum setbacks and the area chart of Title 11, Chapter 3, Section 4 of the town Ennis zoning codes. Public comment.
What are the new setbacks?
Like,
There's a packet right there.
Did you improve them or did you make them?
It was smaller. They went from 25 to 20, right?
Yeah,
Correct.
Yeah.
Oh, good, okay.
I have one that's highlighted.
the changes.
That's the whole meeting packet,
Oh, it is?
the whole shebang.
All right.
So public comment twice. None? Anything from online? Seeing none? Yes, we can close that. Actually, before I officially close, did we have any
No.
submitted? All right, nothing submitted. So now, we'll go to our regular agenda, opening the meeting. I pledge allegiance to the flag You're here? Christy, here.
Maybe. I don't know. Yes.
Corey?
Here.
All right, Bancroft,
John, here.
here. All right. Approval of the minutes of January 13th.
Move to
Any
approve.
additions or corrections?
I have corrections. Under the first page, first comments that the issue with the current ordinance is that it is unenforceable should there ever be a complaint, not ever. 1, 2, 3, 4, 6, 7. Your name, Hirsch comments. And down right below that, Hirsch again. Hirsch reads from the proposed ordinance again and questions section 6A and 6D. I do believe the correction is 6C. It's the noise amplifying equipment, that's under 6C. That's all I have.
Corrections?
I make a motion to approve the minutes with the corrections.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. I guess actually, it's you tonight.
Aye.
All right, public comment on non-agenda items. And before we officially start that, I guess I wanted to define that during a public meeting, so that everybody knows what defines that, is us hearing, discussing, and acting. And we cannot discuss or act on an agenda item that is not on the agenda. So while you may have questions, we actually cannot engage at this time. And so that's kind of why I have the last item on the agenda of unscheduled matters, where we can choose if there's a discussion piece to then figure out where to put it in work session or future agenda. Is that clear? All right. Standing, so apparently you're up first.
So it's a nice feeling, by the way, with all the new council. It's a nice low. Good feeling. Anyhow, I'm going to announce myself because last time the newspaper missed me, quoted what I said, but didn't give me credit for it. So my name's Christian Peterson. The question I'm really not going to answer is what's the status on the Armitage Alley lawsuit? And where are we? Is the town still spending money? Or are we coming to agreement with the owners? That is it, just to bring that back up front.
Comment on non-agenda in the room? Any from online? No other public comment on non-agenda. We're moving on to our unfinished business, which is, there was a nomination for Christy Ranson for the council chair at our last business meeting. That is where we're at now. So a council chair will act in my stead if I cannot be here. And then I asked them to, if nominated, to review everything and then ask any questions so that they knew exactly what they were getting into and being in this position instead of, because they are really opposite positions, I guess is what we're saying. Well, not opposite, but different, executive versus legislative and what that was entailed. So, Christy, how was your fun reading? Good. All right. Do you still accept your nomination? Okay.
I make a motion to approve Christy Manson as the council chair.
Second.
Right over it. You're like, how do I feel about that? Do I or not? You're part of it. So a motion and second's been made for Christy to be the council chair. Corey?
Aye.
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 Motion carries. Now, I guess we are on to. So where we're at now is the PERS or preliminary engineering reports. Haven't been done since 2017. And for us to be in the appropriate grant cycle, we won't make this year's because typically everything has to be done and ready by May. So we're shooting to be available for the next cycle next year to have both water and wastewater PERS complete and ready for. So these identify our structural issues in both water and wastewater, and we do them separately. And then there's several components that are analyzed, and then we go through the contract and decide if this is where we want to go. And we know currently that we have the money in the budget without a budget amendment for both reports to be done this year in water. Correct? Yes. Correct. Talked with Ginger on this one, and she said yes. So I guess I'm going to turn it over to Colette so we can ask questions or give her the floor. We'll start with, I guess, I have them separately. So let's start with water.
So yes, for people who know, I'm Colette Anderson, but I'm the project manager of Great West Engineering. So I sent ahead of time, I don't know if you all had a chance to review, but the contracts so that you all would hopefully have a chance to look at them and be prepared if you have any specific questions. Spoke with Nikki a little bit yesterday, and I thought that I could start by just maybe explaining what it entails in a little bit more detail. The scope of work. In the contract itself, I pretty much just say that we will meet the requirements of the uniform outline, which is, I know it probably doesn't tell you all a whole lot, but that is what all of the different funding agencies utilize. So I made copies and I brought them of what that uniform outline looks like. So you this is a full copy of the uniform outline, and then this is just the part of the uniform document that's specific to preliminary.
Yeah, the scope of work wasn't very, it was like super
Yeah,
generic.
so, yeah, those contracts, so the other thing I tried to explain a little bit to, Mayor, oh, yeah, sorry. I didn't forget. To the mayor yesterday when I spoke is that that contract is really big and thick and the scope is kind of buried. Those are, EJCDC documents, so that's not like a Great West Engineering contract. That is one that's kind of the industry standard and approved by all of the different funding agencies that you may consider. So they're a little bit daunting. So the scope is explained in there, but this, I think, breaks it down more specifically as to what's included in the preliminary engineering report. I think for the water system, the key things are we are going to be looking at your existing conditions and evaluating each component of your system. And really, for the sake of preventing repeating myself, all of what I'm going to say is except for it will apply to the wastewater system. So it's all about taking a look at the existing condition of all the water system. We're going to do look at your distribution all over town to look at pipes. Is collect, like water meter information over several years. We'll collect any pumped flow data over the past several years. And we'll kind of compare all of that data, we'll compile it, compare it to get an idea of how much water you're pumping into your system that isn't actually ever making it through a meter. That gives us an idea of how much water is lost in your distribution system, how much. So from there, we'll use previous reports and information in other projects, to compile, all the different pipe sizes and types and things like that. And then when you come up with the water loss information, which has been done before, we'll update that based on recent data. Then from there, you can look at like where your oldest pipes are in the system, where your, I don't know if you guys still have any like AC pipe or cast iron pipes or things like that. That's typically where you start when there's water loss, and that's usually where it's, most likely to be occurring. So that helps prioritize things. The other thing with your distribution system that we'll take a really close look at, that we'll actually do a fair amount of field work with, is we'll come to town and do some hydrant testing, flow the hydrants, and we would work closely with Eric doing that, and then we'll use the pressure readings and the information we gather from that to put into a computer model, a hydraulic water model, average day conditions, but also under fire flow and maximum day conditions. That will tell us if your distribution system is sized appropriately to handle fire flows. Has the capacity that we need, in a commercial district versus a residential district. So we'll do that kind of analysis as well. Water supply, we're already kind of working on that, parallel paths, right? So we'll incorporate a lot of that information into this. But we'll look at growth projections and different things to make sure that your capacity, is set. And then, of course, the storage facilities that ties. And then with the storage, we'll also be able to look at that, evaluate the condition of that too. And I don't dive in that too recently.
They're coming.
Perfect, okay, so we can review.
They're already scheduled.
Yeah, that's great. So we can take those reports and we'll review those and make some recommendations based on that and incorporate that into the report as well. So that's a lot of what goes into the analysis for the water condition of the system. Evaluated, we move on to then identify and working with all of you, we'll set up some work sessions to prioritize those needs and putting together some potential improvements projects. And then that's called the alternatives analysis. And so as part of the alternatives analysis, we'll develop cost estimates and put together funding packages. And that's a really important part of the preliminary engineering report is the funding analysis. And so we'll look at all of the different funding agencies that have money available and what you're eligible for and what impact your rates would be, and do a rate analysis and all of that right alongside that. So, and then we'll do public meetings as well. The scope of work also includes public meetings so that we get throughout the process. Come to council meetings, we can present in this setting, but then we'll also do more formal public meetings where I actually stand up and give a presentation and give the public an opportunity to weigh in on the project and ask questions. So,
What is the time frame for something like this?
But I think probably 6 months is pretty reasonable.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, we'll want to, a lot of times we don't want to flow the hydrants in the middle of winter and end up with, that might be okay to wait till spring, but, there's some things we could get going on right away, collecting the data, getting it all kind of tabulated and organized and whatnot. As Mayor said, there is a report from 2017, but that was a very brief update, mostly focused on updating some cost estimates. I think the actual real analysis dates back even further to 2012, I want to say. So that'll be a good starting point, but we'll just do a very thorough analysis. It'll be a comprehensive brand new standalone PER. So it will set you up good for any funding opportunities in the coming years. There's also this massive infrastructure bill that's coming out. So we want to put you guys in a position to maybe be able to take advantage of that if there's any opportunities there as well. I don't know if you just want me to move right into the wastewater contract as well.
Let's stop there and then see if there's any staff questions first and then other questions.
Well, don't think I wanted to get rid of PERS in 2017 and now.
So yeah, no, it does not need to be done.
So 5 to 10?
2017.
I guess the full PERS wasn't done since 12.
Right.
And then there was just a
okay.
little update, so that puts us out of any eligibility for.
In 2017, the
So when
focus
would
was
we-
cost estimate.
For next year. That's why we're doing all this.
How long does it last?
Is so like the RRGO. So for example, when communities apply for planning grants to do these, your guys' intent, I believe, is to use some of the ARPA to help cover the cost of these or whatever funding. But I think that was kind of the discussion. But a lot of times communities will use planning grants, and they'll apply for planning grants for the Department of Commerce as well as DNRC. And those programs considered an update if the PER is less than 5 years old. If it's more than 5 years old, they consider it a brand new PER. So that, I think, is kind of the standard.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
And then the grants we'll apply for those like in March or
So
what's
it depends on, that's part of the analysis. So that's part of what we're going to figure out is what funding. I know in the past, you guys haven't been eligible for some of the grants because the rates, they have a rate. So I'm going to do a rate analysis as part of this effort. And so we'll be looking at what grant opportunities or funding opportunities they are for. There's a lot of different funding agencies and they all kind of have different requirements, but you're going to learn a lot. Some of the grant agencies are on a 2-year cycle, so they are accepting applications this year in May, and then they won't accept them again because it's tied to the legislature. until 2024. But then there's like the state revolving fund program, rural development, CDBG, community development block grant, which I don't think you guys are eligible for that one because that one has to do with low and moderate income. But those are, open cycles where you can, CDBG is annual, but open cycles, so we can apply for that whenever. And they both have grant components, but they both have grant components also. And what the funding package we wanted to pursue looked like will kind of play into when we might apply for those grants. Now, those are the grants we know about today. As I mentioned, there's a lot of money being poured into infrastructure bill very closely. And so as those opportunities arise too, it's my understanding there should be some more money in there for water and wastewater. So we're trying to also put you in a position to just be
could be entitled to grants. But first, we have to be in line with the state on what our water and sewer is, period.
correct.
Because you're not going to get the grants if you're not online.
Correct. There's usually a financial component, a financial need component with all of the funding applications. And so that will be part of the analysis. A lot of times when you implement infrastructure improvements, it requires some kind of a rate increase. And so that's all, part of the consideration. And so most of the funding agencies that consider your user rates as part of their eligibility process want to see what your estimated user rate is going to be at the end of a project. So even though you may not be eligible, like with whatever your rates are today, by implementing a project, if that requires a rate increase, you might be eligible for something.
Or the third well.
That's what they're already started on.
Yeah, so we have started on that. We're doing a hydro analysis. We're looking at developing and doing some on some of the wells out of the rodeo grounds, and potentially drilling, test wells if that becomes necessary. So we're hoping to be able to kind of do those side by side and incorporate that information. Like private funding, we have those very commonly, but depending on the community, yes. So yes, it's not always easy, or I wouldn't say it's all that common, but if there's people who know of availability in this community, that's something we would definitely be interested in learning more about.
It will come online with the state. How long will it take, to analyze what you're doing, to know exactly what we should be paying?
Sure. So, I could tell you the eligibility. I can tell you that. I think, I could tell you the eligibility requirements based on your target rate right now, if I just looked it up. I think your combined rate is supposed to be somewhere around, I want to say 80 something.
Yeah.
$53.99. But that might be
water and sewer. That might be just.
when Bobby was here with rural water,
So, and I can
But
double
that
check
wasn't
that.
the rural, that was.
that was not her rate, that was the grant funding rate based on income for.
The way it's calculated is they take, because you guys have both water and sewer, they take your median household income in your community, which is based on American community data. And they take a percentage, I think it's 2.3% of your median household income. And that is what your target rate is. And so they want to see, I looked it up today and I actually printed it and I probably left it on the printer because it's not. So I can look at it and I can email it to you guys so you have the link to the website so you can look it up yourself. It's right there. So I could look at that, right now and say, okay, you're combined. And then look at what your existing rates are and we can be able to tell what you are and aren't eligible for. A little bit longer. is to actually go through the process of developing this report and getting the cost estimates and the potential projects together and look at what the cost, what the user rate is going to need to be at the end of the project in order for you to improve, be able to afford the improvements. And that's the number we really need to look at.
People that want to annex into the city,
Yes.
it's anybody in until we know what the numbers are, what the sewer and the water can handle. We know that the water can only do so much, although the lagoon can do more without the water. So the water is the most important thing of how much do we have, and that we're paying our proper amount. I know in the town of Sheridan, and their water bills are way over double of what ours are.
Yeah. And
I mean, this is going to be a shock to a lot of people in town, finding out that, it's going to be raised in order to, to get the grants that are necessary for improving the water and sewer. And we have to come online, and those are the important factors that we need to know.
Yep. That's all going to be looked at pretty thoroughly.
Questions for Joanne?
So I heard you say 6 months for the time frame, and so is this like the same study, the 2017 one you referred to? Is that the one that Andy Bobes did, or Bob's, however you say, the groundwater study? And then it'll build off of that, or is this just testing basically what, compiling data of the usage of what our town is using right now? Or,
So it looks like.
because groundwater is also a big issue, I would think, especially low snow years like this year, the drought last year. I mean, you gotta have water to tap into was another thing that we had talked about all last year. Are we doing updated studies with the hydrologists on groundwater study too, or the MBMG?
Yep, so that's what we
Okay.
we're talking about just a second ago.
Oh,
So
okay.
we're kind of along parallel paths. We're doing. We're kind of right in the middle of that. So I'm hoping to, that's a little bit ahead of what we're doing here, so then we can take that information and incorporate it in to developing whatever improvements project might be necessary. So water supply is definitely the biggest priority, and that's why, we've already kind of started, and the town has made progress already, and, to get that.
Questions online? Anybody else there from council? I have, I guess, a couple. So I guess part of the contracting is we have our description and we basically have our timeline. I'd kind of like to see the timeline in there just so that we know. And maybe it is, and maybe I missed it on page.
It is in there. I think I put 180 days.
Okay.
That six? Yeah.
Let
me find it really quick and I will point you to it. I apologize, the contracts I know are.
It was a lot.
Yeah.
I was like, thank
if you
heavens
guys
there's
are
not a
looking
test
through
or
it, I
definition.
will just lead you to the part that you probably care most about. And so, if it says Exhibit A up here, that's where the scope of work is defined for each phase of work. So right now, we're just in the study and report phase.
Okay.
In the future, if we move into a design phase, we'll amend this and we'll talk about the design phases. Exhibit A defines the scope of work. And then if you get to Exhibit C, that's where the cost. Those are kind of the key pieces. The attorney usually looks at, everything else, but those are the pieces that usually the council is interested in, if that's helpful. As far as the date, on the second page of Exhibit A, it talks about, deliverables to the owner within 180 days. And then there's some back and forth, so then it gives you guys a certain amount of time to review, comment, and then us time to incorporate comments, and then get a final draft back to all of you. So that is, if that is sufficient, that is.
You already checked everything, like you already checked everything in your mind. And address the worst case scenario that we'd already talked about, the worst day. Right. I guess.
Any kind of impact fees for future with the annexation and stuff, do you guys give us
We can s-
recommendations on
We
that?
can certainly look at that, and what often we're able to do is kind of look at what similar communities are doing and give you. A lot of times you'll also work with your attorney or get bond counsel involved for any potential, loan work that might happen. They can also weigh in on some of that. So yeah, we can definitely offer some guidance on that through this process as well.
We talked about updating another document with the water.
Yes. So I found the emergency response plan that we've talked about. I think the last time I was here, we kind of talked about it. And so I learned a little bit of the history of that too, because I wasn't involved when that was done. But I think what happened was one of your water lines was damaged by maybe the power company or something like that. And it was pretty significant, like drained your whole system. And so DEQ got involved and as a result required this emergency response plan. So it's very specific to your water system. And so I think it would be appropriate to just, I don't think there's going to be a lot to update with that, but I think as I go through the preliminary engineering report, I'll also just review that. And if there's sections that just are outdated or something, I'll just kind of update it right alongside.
I'll stop.
No, they're great.
All right. So I guess with that, since I have them as separate points, we have presentation for consideration. So, and then you see this little Montana code annotated afterwards says that we can vote and approve to enter these contracts this evening. That we don't have to send it out to a full bid.
Right. Are you good? I'm good.
Is there anything on the floor?
To approve preliminary engineering contracts for the water system, right? What should I say, with Great West? Task order number 7.
Right.
No, separate.
There's a motion and a second. Actually should have. Any from online? All right. Then I should have gone to discussion. Doing things a little backwards. No? All right. Here, you're up first.
Aye.
Aye.
Water.
I won't take as much time on wastewater because like I said, all of what I said on the water applies to the wastewater. Same report, just about your wastewater. The important things to note on the wastewater system is the biggest effort, and it is a pretty significant effort, is the river. So you have compliance. The difficult part right now is DEQ is kind of in this holding. Some different calculations, running some different scenarios, and kind of seeing what we might anticipate as somebody stated earlier, the lagoons, I mean, they have a lot of capacity. There's a lot of room for growth there. But where it's a little trickier is the treatment aspect of it.
When we're talking capacity, we're talking, there's different levels of capacity for the lagoon. So that's, I guess, the important thing to define is there's the actual like fluid
Hydraulic capacity,
and then there's
organic.
actually our organic capacity.
Exactly.
How we're breaking that down.
Yep. Important to distinguish between those. So hydraulic struggle a little bit to meet the TSS total. Sometimes we have some.
Right now, it's safe.
From the sump pumps?
No.
Yeah,
Well, yes.
there's that,
The
and just
gorge.
groundwater infiltrating everything in general.
So you've got,
TSS, that's,
yeah.
you know,
Percent removal.
requirement right now.
So what Eric's referring to there is like, you measure the pollutants when it comes into the plant or into the system, and then you also measure when it comes out. So not only do you have to meet certain limits, like it has to be at a certain level when it leaves, when it discharges, but you have to be able to show you have 85% removal from the influent to the effluent, which if it's already highly diluted and the level's already low to get. So we'll take a really close look at, maybe it's an operational thing, maybe there's different ways. We'll have to just look at that and see what we can do to help there. The other big component you talked about, I&I, infiltration, inflow, getting into your system. So what I like to do when I do the wastewater PERs is come and put flow monitors in different locations throughout your system. And we'll divide kind of your collection system up into different basins depending on where all the. Then we'll collect all of that data, and then you can look at it like in the middle of the night, for example. Toilets, if all of a sudden there's a big, increase. Analyze the collection system from that perspective and see where the biggest issues are.
We've been keeping a really good eye.
And we'll work really closely with Eric through all of this too, because he'll be a great. That's
Trying
great.
to help us get out of this TSS problem.
Too. So if it was just done, maybe it's unnecessary, but we might do it anyways just because it's good to compare. So we'll do that also. So that's included in the scope. And then everything else is the same. Do you guys have lift stations or is it all?
Yeah.
Yeah. So we'll take a look at those. We'll take a look. Biggest effort probably is related to the treatment. So all of that will be included. And then everything else that I talked about, the water, we'll do public meetings, we'll have work sessions. And
Looking at our current lot availability and what it's zoned for and the potential there is part of that.
yeah, we will absolutely, yes, so part of the, like in the outline, it talks about planning area, and so part of what the agencies want to see and what we like to look at, okay, what is your planning area? So what is your existing boundaries of your system? And then look at where that could occur, so where are there vacant lots that could potentially connect to the system, and then outside of like your city limits and the boundaries of look at all of that and work with you guys to see what you're.
We're going to be hanging out with a lot of policy and reviews. Growth policies next.
Safe to assume that there is more guesswork involved with the wastewater than there is because you don't have a meter. So you have X amount in a system and then you're able to meter it and then you can determine how much loss is happening. So asking if there's a fair bit of guesswork involved with the amount of sewage that's actually making it to the lagoon as well.
There's a couple of ways we look at that. So the flow monitoring is really helpful in that because we in manholes at different, so those are like meters. So we'll put those in different manholes throughout the system and be able to kind of measure. Most of the thing we want to look at mostly with in the wastewater system is it's all, we want to look at where water is getting into the system. And then I think we can put a flow monitor too out there. Yeah, so we can put one right out close to the lagoon. We can move them around. I mean, we have a flow monitor and we can also rent a couple. So one thing I want to point out in the scope that's a little bit different is because you brought it up before is the time. I did include more days for this one because I thought it's probably more realistic that it'll kind of piggyback on the water. They probably won't be done right at the exact same time. So I extended the time out a little bit.
Go back to the sump pump, the system's running in. If you guys are conducting a test, do you think it's more imperative that we make people, please don't be doing this while we're conducting tests? I mean, should we?
Well, I think that encouraging people to eliminate sump pumps if at all possible is good no matter what. So I think educating people on that this is a really good idea. As far as it impacting our flow monitoring, you know, the fact of the matter is it's a reality that people have sump pumps in that system. And so those sump pumps are going to be running in the middle of the night potentially, right? So I think
They've been running for weeks.
yeah, so I think that actually it's important for us to be able to see that. So I don't think we
Shutting
want
them down.
right, shutting them down is going to give us this kind of false
Currently, it shows us truly like one of our worst case scenarios where we have the gorge itself doing its own infiltration and then that moving towards our residents and then the residents trying to move it from their place back to the water system. And now we're really seeing the worst case scenario of that part of the system right now, other than when we see it, we know it happens in May, June, but we adjust to that. And this has been like, yeah, or maybe it's just me. It's like, first of all, thank you, River, for that.
You're exactly right. Yeah, I think it's important for us to see that. And then, you know, the fact of the matter is it's great to encourage people to eliminate sump pumps if at all possible, but most communities have a really difficult time.
Right.
Yeah, I was like, how do they really eliminate it?
Yeah.
And then they just flood.
Yeah, because you have to have somewhere to put a storm drainage system that they could connect into. Right, so it's just, you know, in community, and you're in the same, I mean, a lot of communities are in that same situation, so.
Do we have any questions from online about the wastewater? Bro? More from the commission?
One question, so, our orders are, it'll cost us 50,000 for the water and then 70,000 for the wastewater. Now, how do we put this into the budget?
There's already ARPA money.
Huh?
There's already money in it.
Okay.
ARPA money.
Oh. Any question?
And I guess with that, like, I've been in several meetings with Heckler and there is still county money available.
Which Jim Hart said he released to us.
He did release, I have that email somewhere.
And there's
220, but there's still money that is not designated out at this point because there's still quite a few projects in the county that are going on and they wanted to make sure that they were identified and everything before distribution happened. So, because Twin Bridges is doing some serious dike work, and so countywide, they wanted to get a really good picture of what's going on before any of that money was released, and still making sure that it's divvied out evenly and appropriately. So,
And we worked very closely with the county on their ARPA funding, and so,
and then independent of that, in the was still enough in the budget for it, so
From what we got.
that's where that's at.
Thank you for answering that question.
I move to approve the preliminary engineering report contract of wastewater management with Great West Engineering, task number 8.
Second.
Anything from online? All right, that closes public comment. Commissioners, anything else?
Aye.
Aye.
I,
the signature pages are tabbed.
There's 2 copies of each, so you can keep one for you guys. And one for us.
All right.
And I'm.
All right. He's now, or can you do this?
If you want
Okay.
to take it now, you're welcome to do it whenever you have time.
All right,
It's easiest.
sounds good. Well, thank you for coming all the way down to that.
Thanks, Colette.
No problem. If you guys have any other questions or think of anything else, just let me know.
Yeah. There's a lot of you.
There's lots of work here to be done, so.
And don't worry, I'll
Get sick
email
of seeing me
you
talking about
shortly.
PERs. Thanks, guys.
Thank you, Colette.
All right. What did I put that on there for?
Do we do comment on this or just move to approve it? I make a motion that we do
We have
discussion.
to approve the second reading. We're talking about ordinance 146, approving this.
So just make a motion and then discuss.
Yeah.
I move to approve ordinance number 146, an ordinance repealing and replacing the district minimums and maximum setbacks and area chart of Title 11, Chapter 3, Section 4 of the Town of Ennis zoning code.
Second.
Public comment? White's going twice? Anything from online? Public comment closed? All right, on to commissioner discussion.
I've seen this for so long, I'm sorry.
It's just like, I don't have a comment. Anyway. Any other comment? Call the vote. So that will be the adoption of this, the second reading and the ordinance. Is that how we worded that? That's how we worded that? Correct. So now we can call the vote. It's you.
Aye.
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 Mayor Nicky,
James? Were you talking?
yes, is the commission going to make some findings of fact and support?
We can't hear you, James.
What's going on?
You can't hear me?
James, I can't hear you.
I'm
Hold,
sure
wait.
it's my microphone.
It's not hearing. Has it?
He's not waiting either.
Your message or hear what is even happening at all.
Has his cat walked by yet? I haven't been watching.
No.
What's that? His cat.
Can you hear me
I
now?
was just laughing because it's so easy to put up green screens behind any of your stuff if you have any meetings.
Can you guys hear me now?
The cat.
Green screen, all that.
Yeah.
I think the creepy empty room picture is creepy.
Well, and when you're online, you can't hear any of these guys really speak, if anybody speaks from back here, so it's too bad we don't have.
There
a
is,
difference.
It's right there.
So,
but we talked about the podium.
yeah, online's pretty rough.
Yeah.
It's like.
So
Lisa texted me in the beginning, she said sound is wonky.
She can hear. She
She
can hear, but
We can't.
can you guys hear me now?
Well, I mean, I could get the gist of it. But you were missing like huge pieces of part. Couldn't say anything, and I know he was at Notre Dame, the same time, so I knew it wasn't just like much. It's not normally that bad? It was terrible.
This is not
Hello?
Now I feel bad, like, what if there was a public comment and I wasn't getting it?
Nobody unmuted.
Yeah.
Raise
Well,
their
since,
hand.
Check.
since that's an
1,
LGT.
2. 1, 2. Can you hear me?
There's a remote.
How
Oh,
about
we
now?
hear you.
Can you hear me now?
All right, James, comment.
Okay, maybe I guess maybe I wasn't talking loud enough. So,
No, you were good. It was on our end.
oh, okay. So I just wanted to ask if the commissioners, if there's any, are you guys going to enter some findings of fact in support of the resolution?
Exactly what you told me.
Do we add it with it or do I just add it to the minutes?
We can add them to the minutes. Ooh. What did you send me?
I have to go to sent mail.
I'm not hearing anybody right now.
Oh, we're all
I
being
had it. I
quiet.
did find it, I did do it.
Christy's looking, she actually sent me a list of,
I did the homework, James, that you asked for.
yes, Christy did homework.
Okay.
Looking for where we sent it, and that was, I'm glad you brought this up, because she did her homework.
I can't find it.
Oh, why isn't my phone turned in?
Yeah, it was like what, last month?
Discuss the findings. Regarding the zoning?
Yeah,
Yeah,
so
you
it's
wanted
basically
findings.
the events that occurred that supported the change is what we're after. And from the planning board, 2 consecutive planning board.
Madison County Planning Board recommended text amendments to the town on June 28th, 2021. Several of town residents expressed concerns of building height during public meeting in the spring of 2021. Adjusting setbacks for the town of Ennis landowners to utilize more of their property.
And then you had the concerns during.
I said that, concerns of the spring meeting of 2021.
But there's 2 planning board meetings.
Oh yeah, 2 planning board meetings. Alex, 2 different times and recommendations. Alex recommended changing the zoning setbacks. June 28th, 2021 is one of them for sure.
In the subsequent meeting.
And then the subsequent meeting now, that's also. I will try to find the email that I sent to her. Because it did have my wife's. We will attach it with the ordinance, right? Or somewhere, file it. Is that what you want, Mr. Greenbaum?
Well, what you want to do is put on the record, I mean, you can incorporate by reference, I imagine. But essentially you want to support the adoption of this change with some reasons and facts in support thereof as to how it's consistent with the growth plan and how it's, consistent with the small town character of Ennis. Just basically bolster the reasons for making the changes. That's all.
We'll have that, the 2 planning board suggestions and the minutes from,
And then this spring when
yes,
the public comment with adjusting it.
as reference items for the findings of facts in support of ordinance 146. All right, so
You can make some general observations and generally support it with your rationale for making these changes. And then that, when you finally make the resolution adopting the ordinance, you would incorporate that into that resolution. But, you just want to get something on the record for tonight.
So that means for next meeting, we'll have the resolution of adoption and we can attach the finding of facts with it. Yes. That makes sense? Zoning.
What was that? I was reading this over.
I will talk with Susie as to a zoning staff report on said topic as part of the findings of facts. She's like, man. Which will probably come up with the same items that Chrissy already had. So,
So then we have to re-vote on it next month?
a resolution of adoption
Okay.
of ordinance.
We voted on this
146.
tonight for the ordinance, and then you do a resolution to adoption.
Take a little bit longer than I individually thought. And we'll have to plan so far ahead. There's steps. All right, so for ordinance 145. Did you read this whole thing?
Just the old print, yeah.
Or old version of the ones and it's already changed. Section 7E was the significant change that sent it back to first reading, where we included the word indoor events, including sound amplifying equipment.
To indoor
Number
and outdoor.
7, letter E, the words indoor events, comma, including sound amplifying equipment were added, changing the context of the sound ordinance we previously reviewed. Meet public questions and concerns of businesses.
Yeah, I think this thing's a total waste of our time.
So under that same section, section 7, number E, to add, the parties obtain any permits required needs to put in by the town.
Oh, that's not contextual, it's just For medical.
for medical.
But
So this was just one of those things that had been on the table for a long time. And we're trying to clear up old table items, one way or another. So I do want to say that the other one is completely unenforceable, and so if at some point we decide that this is not for us either, I would still ask the legislative branch to probably look at repealing without replacing the other portion if this is as another option. So we're to approving the first reading of this.
one of the things I was wondering was, because it doesn't say in here, how much are we requiring for a permit? And is it going to be yearly or per event or incident?
That's in like the permit section of the code.
Yeah, that has nothing to do with the ordinance.
We're just kind of excluding people that get permits. That's in a whole different section. That's like, all that stuff just varies on the event, whether it's every time or yearly or whatever.
The first reading.
I move to approve the first reading of ordinance 145, an ordinance repealing and replacing noise from Title 11, Chapter 4, Section 5J of the Ennis Town Code and replacing it with the noise ordinance in Title 6, Chapter 8, Section 1.
No.
Vote on the first reading, we do a second reading, we vote on the second reading, and then do the resolution.
Absolutely not.
Aye.
What a waste of town.
So
This
there,
junk.
right? Where am I at?
You're done.
Are you looking for?
Yes.
Draft policy is the next item of business. So, I guess if anybody wants to see it, as I kind of sat in before I was in this seat, I wanted a little bit more organization, which I still clearly have not obtained in my own portion of this. But, it's basically guidelines on how we expect participants and ourselves to act during a meeting. If anybody has any. That's where we're at. Something that more condensed.
It's way better.
So much better.
Way better.
The last one was way too long.
Well, right, it was,
So the first person.
James just wrote the whole entire thing up to give a, it was kind of a discussion too.
Go in like the code or the, like,
No,
or is it just for us?
It's just a policy. It's
It
kind
goes
of
in
like
the
our
policy manual.
Policy manual.
yeah, which we're kind of working our way through. And it's kind of like eventually I'd like to adopt a format. Like this one that we're using tonight came from our training directly from MSU and adopting a format that's already kind of approved from different places, but I'm trying to work out the finalities of it. And then again, like my timeline for when I will accept information to be on the agenda. So those are things that will go in tandem with it, but not creating one bulky piece. Does that make sense? And so that when we transition from council to council, while they may make adoptions to the policy, at least there's framework in place for the next group. So you're not like starting from ground zero and there's not this, like I would say, like a consistency of care as we're passing the town from one hand to another. A little bit of streamlining it might help in the long run. That makes sense? but of course, it's always up to the next person to be like, I really hate how long these are, and throw them out. So,
Well, at least there's something there to enforce, there's something to look at if there's.
and it's a nice document to remind, and it, like, we've had actually a couple of, like, homeschooling children and stuff come in to observe over the last year, and they're like, whoa, that wasn't what I was expecting. So bringing this formality to our meetings, I think, will create a little bit more trust between the public and the council, which I do feel needs to be rebuilt, and getting people back involved in this, because as you see, like Twin Bridges, do they have a mayor yet? Like, creating this, we want to be here. It should be a little bit of fun, maybe. I don't know. Heckler's telling me this should be fun. I still haven't figured that out yet, but putting places in peace so that we're working together and on the same page, and expectations are clear from the people and from us on how we're going to treat each other, and making sure that we uphold our end of the bargain. Make sense? So everything that applies to them applies to us. I'll use the point of order when we're out of order and go from there.
A bud section in here?
I know, we're gonna work on that in the legacy.
Oh my gosh.
I knew it. I was throwing it in eventually. All right, so any motion to,
That's right,
Subaru, motion to adopt a policy?
I move to approve Town of Ennis public meeting policy.
All right, public comment.
Bravo.
Any other public comment?
Did you all get a copy of it?
Okay, good.
No, you want?
Public comment from.
Yeah, policy guy.
It
should
used
look
to
at
go
that.
4 pages. You know that, like, if things get, if we have meetings where we anticipate a lot of public comment, we may go to the podium thing, or if we continue to have sound issues. But I didn't want it to be restrictive of anybody that doesn't move well. So trying to find that balance of how do we do it? Can we just raise our hand and go from there? Not make it too strict, but it might have to adapt as events adapt, I guess.
Could even be the microphone.
Very difficult when you people in the back have something to say, and it's important you say it. But your volume is low, and we can't hear it.
It's
That's
hard-
why they
it's
were
hard.
talking about having a podium where you would come up and speak so we can all understand it.
And that applies in reverse. It's
Yeah.
hard back here.
So,
Right.
and it's structural, and I love it, but I hate it.
You don't like that?
It's like, hi, Kate.
Hold on to
All right, so, online, public comment. Can you hear? All right, seeing no other public comment, commission.
Job team.
Yes.
All right, any other comment? One vote.
Aye.
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 All right. All right, so this next piece is, not that. Okay, this is me. So I'll read it and then I'll give an explanation behind it. Resolution of intent by the town of Ennis Commission, Ennis, Montana, to by ordinance, or wait.
Probably the other one first.
The other one first.
That's what I was wondering.
Okay, resolution of
doing
intent
first?
by the town of Ennis, this is resolution 56820.
Okay, thank you. That's fine. Okay.
Resolution of intent by the town commission of the town of Ennis, Montana, to by ordinance, transfer ownership and equipment of Ennis Ambulance Service to Madison Valley Medical Center. Whereas on August 12th, 2019, at a meeting between Safe Tech Solutions, Madison Valley Medical Center, Ennis town officials, Ennis ambulance personnel was held at Madison Valley Bank Conference Room to discuss the long-term sustainability of Ennis ambulance service. And whereas on July 9th, 2020, the Ennis Town Commission had further discussion regarding the Ennis Ambulances Services future. Whereas the Ennis Town Commission approved unanimously the transfer of Ennis Ambulance Service operation and equipment to Madison Valley Medical Center through a memorandum of understanding on November 12, 2020 at a scheduled meeting of the Town Commission. Whereas on the date of May 1st, 2021 was set by the Ennis Town Commission and Madison Valley Medical Center for the transfer of ownership of Ennis Ambulance Service to Madison Valley Medical Center. Now therefore, be it resolved that Ennis Town Commission's intent to by ordinance finalize the transfer of Ennis Ambulance Services operations and equipment to Madison Valley Medical Center. All right, so the piece behind this, and I guess I already have to amend it, is as I was preparing for this office and reading the charter, that is when I caught in the charter, Article 2, Section 2.03, what you have to do by ordinance, and that is to abolish a department, it must be done by ordinance. So technically, we have not completed that action item. So I would like to officially go through the ordinance process to complete that decision as per the town code. And then if all that process goes through, then do the rest of the finalizing of termination. I can write my own termination letter if this goes through, and my husband's. And all of that process, because as the volunteers were still employees of the town, there was a process that needed to be followed and to be complete, and we need to finalize that. Move on. A little bit of things I have in the process and plan for that completion.
That has to, I guess, be finished to make it.
We have to go through the ordinance process.
Okay, so it's just gotta act like it's like fresh on the table all over again, basically?
Kind of, but we
Okay.
have a lot of findings of facts that kind of have gone through the process and go through it. It's just so that like 10 years from now, I can see quite a few things like if there's a new hospital and there's this, there's that. It really needs to be done by the proper process so that it is a complete transfer and done with the proper public hearing portion in place. That was not done.
So this is a housekeeping item to make it clean and clear,
Yes.
or there's going to be a public hearing?
Well, there has to be a public hearing for an ordinance.
You
It
have
has to go through 2 public hearings.
Okay, you'll have to notice
We will have to notice that in the paper and everything.
So will
to
there
make
be,
it official.
Yes.
and will there be questions at that time, or are you gonna public comment?
We'll go
So on this, we're gonna do a resolution, then an ordinance?
resolution of intent to do it so that it's all done. Resolution of intent, ordinance, resolution of adoption. Right. And again, that process may change as I go to Shoto and dig more or learn more before my brain explodes. There's always different takes on how the process should
I know, I'm confused too, I'm on ordinances and resolutions, I'm in Montana code.
I have read through it and I feel like I keep going, like I'm chasing my tail. So that's where this is at.
But the
And then
public
bring in-
hearings, can they undo what's been done though? They really can't undo what's been done though,
There
correct?
is a memorandum of understanding that has been signed where the gift transfer was done.
Okay.
And that is a legal document.
Not-
So
they can't be
everything
undone.
that has been transferred, you can't, no take backsies. That's that legal document. As far as I understand, this is kind of I've noticed it as a housekeeping thing and I don't know this crystal ball on how this is going to go. I do know that has to be done one way or another, or else 10 years from now, or 30 years from now, or 40 years from now, it could be something that was not publicly noticed and not taken care of, and nobody around that was part of it has anything to say, and we're in this big conundrum and.
So you're cleaning.
Wouldn't it be easier? Supposed to take the full effect of May 1st. We know a mistake has been made. We need a public hearing on it. Why don't we just set it up and do it?
That's what I'm doing. That's the process. This is the process.
Yeah.
And I'm trying to be very, very clear that there's a process that we will go through so that there is every opportunity for the people of the town to have their voice heard on all matters. So giving them.
We
fair
had
notice.
public hearings and stuff, we never did an ordinance or a resolution.
There was no public hearing.
There was never a public hearing on it.
There's not even an official resolution that I can find. There's a lot of things where this needs to be finalized in the proper format.
So let's do it.
So that's what's on the next agenda. So this is the resolution of intent, as long as we're all on board. All right.
So they gifted it, huh?
And we have all the supporting documents for it,
Okay.
and those will be in the finding of facts for the ordinance, so that everybody can review what's there.
Just a quick question on that. In the facts in there, is it going to explain that the ambulance was transferred to a for-profit or nonprofit business? Because there's that question.
The memorandum of understanding is public record, and as everybody reviews it, there is, how it was written has made everything possible. There was nothing violated in that, and how the agreement was set. This is where the transfer goes to and where it may go to from there.
So we'll have to find findings of facts for this too.
Yes, and I have a good stack of them
Okay.
ready to go. Because I found this in December and have been like stressing out, like, ooh, what am I gonna do? How do we do this? And how do we pull this together both in the positive tone that it needed to be? From the get-go, there's things that I love about the old service, and there's things that I didn't like about it. There's things I love about the new one, and things that I don't like about it as much, but those are my personal feelings on it. I'm trying to keep this as a non-personal item in my world, and we need to check the box and move on to better things, just cleaning it up and being done with it.
I just have one more question. In the fact finding, because of how it was transferred, it was my understanding that the ambulance service prior to going to the Madison Valley was a government entity, if you will, even though it was a nonprofit. And any time that a government entity gets rid of any property that they own, it goes to auction.
If it goes to another government entity.
But Madison Valley Medical Center is not a government entity.
The contract was signed to the district, so those documents were reviewed.
So we have a hospital?
We don't have an ambulance district.
Oh, really?
No, that's what they're trying to get with.
Oh, right.
Yeah,
That's where.
but there's a hospital district, it went government to government.
Okay. That's all.
And then, yeah, everybody will be able to review all those documents. I'm gonna put them together in this giant packet. I thought the first was fun to read. Again, big packet of the findings of facts and what we went through. And I'm trying to get like the safe text solution documents. So a private company was hired by the hospital to assess the ambulance service and its long-term viability. So it's very similar to going through our PERS and what their answers were to that, so that is the base for your findings of facts. All right?
Sorry, too many questions.
Are we okay? So now, I think we kind of went all the way around because we did discussion and then we're going into this. Sorry. Resolution?
I make a motion to adopt resolution 568-2022.
Second. Sorry, I was like, what the hell are you looking at?
Got it. Wow. Yeah, just saw public comment on the adoption.
My only comment was gonna be policy,
Yeah.
we didn't follow it.
Yeah, we did.
Yeah.
Well, this one went really bad. She's trying real hard.
I'm
Like,
I'm just
I
saying,
know.
one exception makes a rule. So.
Okay. Getting there. Poke me. You can yell point of order at me. All right,
Subaru.
next item.
I'm gonna vote.
Yeah. Thank you,
I.
Here.
John. Oh, online comment.
That's the town of Ennis.
Where? Okay.
That's ours. That's
It's
green
doing
right
weird.
now. See, when I talk, it turns green. That's us.
All right, John, you're up.
Aye.
I.
Aye.
I.
Aye.
I'll work on that for next month. Now moving on to resolution 567-2022, a resolution of intent by the town of Ennis Commission, Ennis, Montana, by ordinance to rent lease space to Madison Valley Medical Center for the parking and storage of ambulances and ambulance supplies. Whereas the Ennis Town Commission has shown intent of finalizing, so this is the subsequent. Whereas the Ennis Town Commission has shown intent of finalizing transfer of ownership of Ennis Ambulance Service to Madison Valley Medical Center through ordinance, and whereas Madison Valley Medical Center is currently housing ambulances and supplies at Ennis Town Hall. And whereas an agreement for rent lease of the garage where the ambulance and supplies are housed has been reached by and between the town of Ennis and Madison Valley Medical Center. Now therefore be it resolved, the Ennis Town Commission hereby has the intent to produce and pass ordinance for the purpose of finalizing the rent lease agreement with Madison Valley Medical Center to house ambulances and supplies at Ennis Town Hall. I guess this would be me being Colette and giving the explanation, and then we'll go for this again. Again, in the reading portion of the charter section 2.03, instead of line 1, number 7 says the town of Ennis may only lease property by ordinance. So first we would say a motion or not on the floor for this.
Move to approve resolution 567-2022, a resolution of intent by the town of Ennis Commission, Ennis, Montana 2, by ordinance rent lease space to Madison Valley Medical Center for the parking and storage of ambulances and ambulance supplies.
One second. Public comment.
That was in the lease, I thought.
It is, and they must prove.
And they must.
Renters insurance, but this, if it is a
And-
motor vehicle, they also have, for their license, for an ambulance license, you have to provide your insurance records to the Department of Health and Human Services that licenses ambulances, but we also get a copy of their vehicle insurance.
Pay for any damage done to the building too, I'm sure that's all in the lease.
It is.
Did something happen?
No.
Anyway,
That's
so
covered by
public
the
comment
Madison.
number 2. Anything from online? Closing that one up.
The insurance is covered by the Madison Valley Medical Center.
They have to have renter's insurance in
Okay.
their vehicles, and then I have the lease agreement, and that will be part of the finding of facts for everybody to review.
You know what the rent is that we're asking?
It would be the same as their agreement, which is $500 a month.
I can't remember that.
That's the lease agreement that I read is $500
That's
a
what I
month.
thought I read.
And then they're actually past their original, and they can do just now month by month in the previously signed lease agreement. So just getting that, again, if we're gonna
is not.
gain money from the town's property, we have to let the people say whether or not we can. As a council, since it's not really the council's property, it is the town's. So they have a say during the public hearing on what we do with their property as far as lease agreements.
Looked like there was a comment.
Public comments closed.
Okay. Did it hit the building? Was the building hit or the vehicle
No.
or? Okay.
The garage door was damaged and
So it does
was
concern
repaired.
us.
I mean.
So,
Why,
yeah.
nobody's just saying it. They
Yeah.
backed out, hit the garage door, it's
Well-
already fixed.
Not backed out,
Pulled out.
pulled straight out into the door.
Oh, nice.
Wow. See, I did not know that.
Yeah.
Thank you for asking.
Okay, thank you. So, yeah,
Thank you.
all taken care of. Door's fixed, ready to go.
Perfect.
And yeah, they're great about it, they know. And they're responsible for any damages. Moving on. There. So now, any other discussion from the council? All right. Aye.
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 All right. We'll truck it along. Karen, library report.
Can you hear me?
I can. You can't hear us, but we can hear you.
Yeah, I can't really hear you, so I'm just gonna keep talking. If you have any questions, come visit me at the library. So, you guys have my written report. January is our slowest month, but when I was reviewing stats so far, we're far behind. Hello?
Oh, there you are. You're still there.
Okay. So anyway, January's slow, but we're picking up steadily. There's a serious delay, so I'm gonna try to work with it. So anyway, you have my written report, but I would like to call your attention to the second page that I submitted. This is a very rudimentary landscaping concept that we'd like to pursue very soon when the ground thaws. So this is facing north, right out the north side of the library. So it's we really simplified the design, a very standard array of 24 by 24 concrete pavers set in sand and gravel. And the clear square you see is actually a 12 by 12 square array with a life-size chessboard. This will allow for outdoor seating as well as programming area, and it will really help us out in the summertime. So, based on this very simple design, do you guys have any questions for me?
Karen, it's Corey. Wayne Baker, I spoke with him the other day. It says you have nothing to report for facilities, but he does live here in town up at the golf course, and was just asking how the system was doing.
Really well, actually. Yeah, I remember contacting Wayne a few years ago when things weren't working well. So far, so good, and I'm knocking on wood right now. The bills have been relatively low and everything's running smoothly. Any other questions for me?
I think so. Thank you, Karen.
All right, thank you.
Law enforcement is in front of you, and I'm sure he always says, my door's always open, you know, my phone number, but that's
I know, that's what I was bad.
The question I had for John is on the first item, and he already answered them to me just so that everybody knew that this is where I'd asked, was for as we approach the May 3rd election for the for the levy for the next officer, or the full-time officer position. Marketing, and he already had his marketing plan, so. And I told him that if he needed help, that we could definitely, but he wants to wait till Matt's back because it's really hard to say, hey, he's not here, but, so when Matt gets back, they will be working on some coffee sit-ins, and so, as always, John's got a plan. Anything on that one? All right. Busy for the north? You're up next, Public Works. Busy as for the north?
Yeah. Was there did we end up, this might be more, was there like a notice sent?
Yeah, she'll.
Okay.
Any other highlights?
No, I just, it says there in the report that this Monday, they know it's going, no, we can't help it. They've actually been pretty accommodating, but they can't take that violation away. Basically, all that does is for a year, you don't get any violation.
And so everybody knows, like, when we have that violation or one of those violations, that Eric immediately gets a report, DEQ sends one to the mayor, and then I go, panic, and then I run to Eric's office, and then he says, calm down, this is why, this is where, this is what we're doing about it. So as long as there's a why, a when, and what the plan is.
Just so you know, that's gonna be happening for a while.
Yes.
It's gonna take, I don't know how long for that lagoon to get back to its breeding. It's so watered down right now, I don't know how bad it's gonna be.
And then that going into our traditional time of.
Right.
Okay.
So it's gonna be an ongoing thing for.
So it's not a
They can take that into discharge permit they issue.
Which they're also changing
Right.
permit parameters. And we haven't seen what those permit parameters.
There's honestly nothing we can do about it right now.
We have too much water and it's everywhere.
But this declaration of emergency, does that help us cover our butt?
Not as far as that goes. Us covering us is Eric being in contact every Monday and saying, this is where we're at. This is what we're doing. They've been trying to check any extra water coming into the system, where it's coming from, making sure that there's like no intrusions that we don't know about. So they've been on this constant investigation and keeping an eye on
They
it.
have tracked down one.
So that's part, and we
Camera
can't.
up there, but it hasn't slowed down enough to get the camera in there.
Something that was dry on a Friday was not so dry on a Monday, and it hasn't been great.
So when that does dry up, I think maybe it's just a template. Something's going on there. We'll probably end up doing that.
But there's nothing on our old maps or records that show this line, so this is a new find. Because those are fun. Maps. All right. Yep.
I know, and I do have I left here in a hurry to go to a basketball game and forgot to put these in front of you, I apologize. It's pretty much the same report as I had last month.
Just the projects that are
That
still,
winner.
yeah. Sorry, John, just hand it to you upside down.
And we anticipated a couple of these being at the county, right? But then they weren't there. Is that correct?
There is a couple at the county.
Well, they weren't at the
They're
first
not gonna
one.
be on the agenda for the county until March.
That was my question. Thanks for.
Which ones would those be?
The 40, 50, and, probably all of them. Maybe not. That goes to the county.
Okay.
I didn't want it.
All right. Awesome. Did everybody see all that? Yep. All right. Clerks. She's been a busy.
Okay, so a couple things. I know I mentioned last month that I was looking into an online payment portal billing system. And after doing a demo and seeing prices and stuff, I at first was thinking I'll wait until budget to request this, but I think I'm gonna kind of try and get it in before budget because it could take a while to get in process and budget doesn't always get approved in July and then we're looking at August, September, you never know how long. And it's really actually less expensive than I thought. It's only $850 to set it up. And essentially picture like you go to Northwestern Energy website and you have your own portal to log into and view your bill, your usage and view all of that. Right now, we don't have anything like that. They get a bill, and I get comments probably 5 to 10 times a month of like, do you have somewhere online I can view my bill, or can I see my old payments or whatever? And so we don't, and so I have to print out their bills or email them to them, and print. I think this would be a great way to kind of again move forward in the day and age we're at, where people want to be able to access their account. This would also allow them to set up either debit card or credit card recurring payments. Right now, we only offer ACH, so using their routing. So this would allow that as well. And there's a small monthly maintenance fee of $75 service for us, for the customers, and everything works with Black Mountain, which I really like. So everything is synced multiple times per day if you want it to be. If they make a payment, it shows up immediately on their website or on their login. So again, it works really well with Black Mountain, and yeah, I just kind of bring that up now because I think depending on where we're sitting with budget right now and where that would need to come out of, water, sewer.
Could it come out of water? That's what I was gonna say. Could it come out of water and sewer?
Well, I imagine that's where it would come out of. I regard to discuss with Eric and Ginger and see where we're sitting with those funds to possibly move forward with that, since it is less than I expected as far as the initial setup, so.
Is it yearly or annually after you set it up?
One time $850, and then it's, yep, and then it's, the month. No, and you can.
I would have thought it was way higher.
Yeah, you can set up, like, I didn't dig into this too much because I kind of want to get it going first, but she said you can set up, multiple accounts. So if you own, say, 5 properties, you can have one login, see all of your water and utility accounts. So landlords can see water and utility accounts that other people, you know, that the renters are paying and kind of keep up on making sure that kind of stuff is not getting past due. And you can also, I don't know, I didn't, like I said, I didn't dig into this, but you can set up different accounts, so like paying permit fees and such through there as well if we wanted to go that route. And then there's a monthly maintenance fee of $75, so. What you as the user.
Hours it's cutting back from you entering manually is gonna make up that seven.
I think all credit card payments can be done on there. They sync immediately from the system, so they're full batch and all that stuff.
Is it recorded?
Like, it eliminates that piece of the pie there, so.
That's a big step.
Now Eric keeps saying, well, you're kind of getting rid of your job, but I feel like there's so much other stuff that I could be doing. You know, that the data entry is like, if there's a system that we can use to, that, you know, manages that, there's other things that I can use my. So that's that. And then one of the things, well, the main thing that I've spent the last, we're like 6 days doing is I really wanted to, with this new council and new mayor and new public works director, address past due accounts, water, sewer accounts. We've had an ongoing problem for a very long time and a very long list of past dues. So I started making courtesy calls to try to get this taken care of because this was very long and very overwhelming, and it's just a very time-consuming thing to send out letters every month. So, with doing that, it did take a lot of time, and of course it is a courtesy call, so it's not something I can do every single month, but I'm trying to, you know, get on top of it. And I cut the list of 53 down to 22. So it did pay. My time was well spent, although it was very time consuming. But
How many dollars?
About $8,000.
Holy.
And what's the total, total outstanding?
Total outstanding now is just under 15,000.
Wow.
I'm super.
$8,000.
Yeah.
How many?
23.
Cut them off.
Yeah, that's
easy to
next on the
say.
list, and Eric and I have talked about it in length.
Do we have policy and procedures?
We do. Our ordinance is very well written.
Okay.
It's just not been enforced.
So then things get far beyond where they need to be, where we could, had, again, it been followed from the get-go, we could have managed things in small bites instead of large
Huge.
bites.
I'm just,
And-
I want to clarify something though. We also are just coming out.
Yeah.
So we had almost an entire year where we could not shut people off.
Right.
There's
Oh,
There's a
yeah,
lot of
I
it of it.
forgot about that.
And then everybody's been trying to make sure that everybody knows about the low income water assistance program, and we're trying to do everything we can, because we know this isn't a good idea. Like,
Trying to help them out to better
yes,
their
and then
situation.
trying to figure out if there's a better like evaluation system, or if we can do like a little bit of contract where it says this is, if you're working towards it, then we're just gonna go there. And then Brittany's looked at some other items, so.
So a couple of the other things I have found is we have, what's the word I'm looking for? We have people that are recurring, they don't pay because we don't charge a fee really. There's not really, it doesn't really hurt to not pay. And then and then it becomes a problem. I think the day before I started making calls, there was actually someone in the clerk's report that asked, like, how much do you guys charge? So we have like a forum the clerks do where all the towns are in on it, and you can shoot up. And so there was some good feedback there on like what other towns charge. Some of them are in the same boat as us, is like, they don't charge enough. It doesn't even cover the cost of mailing, and postage and paper and my time to stuff envelopes and, send all that out. And then there's others that, charge like a flat rate, $10 fee and 1.5% interest, or 5% interest and a $10 fee, and there was a couple towns that even said like, nope, we upped our fee because we realized it wasn't even paying for the time to.
There's the one where they don't do anything.
And then there's one that says they're just happy to collect their payment. They're just happy when people. Very tiny town, I don't remember where that was. So, yeah, that is what I've been working on, and I do think that once this list gets pared down, it's in the best interest of the town to obviously stay on top of it. It's not the town's fault that people get this behind, but if you let them get this behind and they do have an income problem, how do you expect them to catch up when they get that far behind? If they are having trouble making a $60 payment, they're sure as heck not going to be able to make a few $100. I think that potentially once we sort out what needs to happen with these few that are lingering, we might need to reconsider raising our penalties so that people do feel like they need to pay this bill. I've heard multiple times since I've been here that, the town is in the business of selling water. Like that is our one revenue income. And so if we don't treat it like a business.
Well, and it looks like revenue and income until you're facing a $30 million improvement project. And then it doesn't look like revenue anymore. It looks like you're just barely hanging on, or not even, to be able to maintain or provide for what you have.
One of the things I also dug up in reading ordinance, and we do have an ordinance, so it does say that we can shut off after 60 days. We can file liens, we can take people to court, but we also, I just discovered this week, that we can file a lien against their property taxes. That makes it a much quicker process rather than just a lien on your home and we wait for them to sell in 30 years and then get the money. We can file a lien on their property taxes, and ideally, if they're paying their property taxes for an amount of time. So.
Software system for billing, does that track past due?
Our current system does, yes. I have to pull.
What you're looking at?
So this, yeah, the one I'm looking at is just an online portal that works with our current billing system. Our current billing system, I have to pull a report to see who's past due. And one of the pieces of this online portal, it's a whole company that does all sorts of different things, but they also offer text, phone call, or email, like delinquent reminder options. And it's like $5 a month if you wanted to have that. They have a lot of other options for as far as staying on top of that, but our current billing system does, we can pull reports and see who's past due.
When the arrears money accrued during COVID, was there not money given to the town of Ennis for COVID-related things like this?
The numbers, but I think there was a lot more. This didn't start with COVID.
But a portion of it that if there are COVID funds that you could just write it off and move on from it and kind of,
Sure. The COVID money was. We got some, not tons, but it was super specific. John got some through the ambulance, but it was very.
And it's already been spent.
I was just curious, since they can't turn off their water during COVID,
right,
was some of that
Some of that's prior to COVID.
Yeah.
In years. Okay.
But there's like sanitation issues there too, like, I guess. It's my job to enforce it if there needs to be a look at the policy as to, do we need to create a guideline as something that says, this is your current bills, this is where you're at, this is, when somebody hits a medical bill where they're gone, down, out, they don't have any income, and now they have this huge chunk of medical bill, it's pretty easy to go, juggling.
They're
And
gonna pick one.
I don't know, I'm throwing out ideas, and maybe we need to come up with a better system. People do need to pay, and maybe it's not our job to take care of the world, but maybe in a way it really is, and we need to figure out.
So it also says in our ordinance that, and unless you make a payment arrangement.
So yeah,
But
$10 a month.
most of these folks are not making payment arrangements, that's the
So-
thing, and it's also, going forward, I'm going to require it in writing, I can't just take a verbal agreement and try and remember who all verbally says I'll pay, this, like, if we're gonna go with a verbal, an agreement, it needs to be in writing.
And
And then it needs to be followed, and then if they don't follow it, okay, then maybe we turn them off. We, of course, will give them chances, but at some
Is out to about 800 a piece or whatever it'd be for the 23. Ordinance, does it say anything about, like you do with credit cards when you get behind kind of deal? Wrap up that debt to start fresh for some of them, being like, I can't give you the full, $1,000, but what I do have is X amount. Can we pay that, start fresh? Is that in the ordinance or is that an option?
It's not in the ordinance, but it's up to Public Works Director and the mayor to agree
I know we
on
lose
an
funds, but
Yeah.
at least be clean slate from there.
Yeah.
But
I
those,
think
are
getting-
those people, so that
And some pay every few months. And I very clearly got the impression that they pay every few months because we don't have a penalty. It was very clear on the phone when I'm calling these people. And it's like,
Are all of those delinquents still current users?
nobody shut off.
Well,
Oh,
no.
you mean like, have they moved out? Okay. There are actually two, and I forgot to mention this, but there are probably two that will have to write off, I imagine. The amount of about lien, they've moved, I used,
They don't own
John,
property, you can't lien their debt.
I can't find any
They don't have a
information
landlord.
on, or I did and it was a bad number, or it's somebody else's number, or.
And we probably can't touch them once they leave state. There's a lot of times once you leave state borders, you can't touch them.
Well, like Northwest Energy, that follows you.
Yeah,
You can't get a card in Sheridan, Montana, under Northwest Energy.
So I think honestly, like, once we get this cleaned up and, I just think the town needs to set a new precedence of like, we expect to be paid for the service. And people will pay. People pay Northwestern Energy because guess what? They'll turn you off.
Well, maybe an option in that ordinance would be for people that are, that, like the power allows them to get hit with this huge bill in the winter when.
Yeah, so it's
Like, they know what they're responsible for. To shoot down, so.
Mine's the same all year round.
Do you not have a
It
yard
goes up
mower?
a little bit in the summer when I water my yard.
Yeah, I was gonna say, do you not
But
want to
not
yard?
a lot.
Mine was huge. My bill was crazy.
Goes
From
up
summer
like
to
to
winter.
15, 20, not.
Yeah,
mine doesn't.
mine doubled in the
Mine
summer.
doesn't
And
increase
I
that
didn't
much
water
in
much.
this
No.
tank.
I bought it.
but it's just a thought.
No, I think, and Susie just mentioned it too, I think our system does, we don't have it set up, but I've seen a report of budget billing of some sort. So I'll look into that, because that
I don't know what
could be
it is, but I know
helpful,
it's
for
in there.
sure.
Something like that, okay.
Yeah.
Plus 15.
Yeah, she's been busy.
And then I've been doing some, kind of just prepping some papers and reports and stuff for the auditors, sending them in for, they give a whole entire list of what they want that they can look at before they come down. So I've been helping Ginger get those prepped and sent over to them.
Brittany. Back to Public Works and the whole sump pump issue, is, what would be a way to communicate with all of our water sewer users regarding?
I mean, besides putting stuff on people's water bills,
Is
which
there
is very,
enough room on the water bill
it
to
is so
put it?
ancient. Do you even notice it? I mean, all the fonts the same.
I know, it's so
Yeah.
tiny, but what about highlighting it? Is there any way to do the font?
It
No.
prints the way it prints, and
That's
you
it.
can't change anything.
And you have very few characters, I don't know how many it is.
Like.
How many do we send out?
Can
I write a handout on all of them? No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah, no, probably not, like 4. Yeah. We can customize the email bills a little bit more. I mean, we can. Yeah, so the part of this program, I mean, I don't know if any of you have heard of like reverse 911. It's like, you can send out a mass message to the area. Kind of like that essentially, but it's just our.
Or is it, what
Or
is,
announcements of the town or whatever.
the school system uses
Yeah, they have.
something similar to that, you know?
Lots of options to look at.
But again, what do they do with it?
Yeah. Do you put a giant, like, future pool problem or?
Yeah, they don't really have anywhere to put it to.
Some places require that if you were going to run a sump pump, that if that is in your planning and you were in an area where that is likely, that you put in a fresh drain and so that the water goes there. It's an education piece. Like, well, there's 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm just saying that maybe I need to go hang out at the library and be like, so let's talk about water, water, and what it means to you. It was a crash course. I feel like there should be a boot camp for engineering and wastewater when you get into this position, because when you move into town or when you become 18, do you go grab this book and say like, what can I flush down my toilet? No, you do not. And I know they says ignorance is not an excuse, but that's truly the reality. It's not like you're like 18, woohoo, I'm leaving the house, and whenever I move, I'm gonna get the town code book and see what I can flush, what I can't flush. What makes my water bad? I'm just saying, we might have to do a little bit of education for things to work better.
Your food, water, and
some chocolate pudding.
Water blog.
But as we do water rates, we're gonna have to do some pieces in there and getting people. I don't know how you get people excited about this. I really don't. Other than saying like your rate's gonna go from 18 to 60, that's gonna get them excited. But
They're not gonna pay attention until we're done though. That's how we do.
Any other questions for clerks, or we need to?
I did want to mention, and this was kind of brought up, but I did, through my conversations, and two people did sign up and get approved for low. It's a new thing that the town has signed up for. If you guys out and about hear of anyone that should be on that program, please let them know. The application's on the website under utilities department, and it goes through quickly. I've been in contact with them. I mean, it was approved in 2 days for this gal that has been struggling and on this list for a very long time.
Good.
So, yeah, that people just need to know it's available, and if you help spread the word, so that people are aware that that is out there.
Sign up for notifications as to like postings on the town website, mine pops up, and it seems to work past the first time. I haven't had any glitches. Yeah, since
It was
the original.
updated.
But yeah, so every time more posts are Lions Club update, it notifies my email, so I can go to the site and see what's added, so. More things, and I guess we could always post some of the month on
We
the
can
town
just
website.
doorknob. I
Just some pumps, let's do this. This one, really, that cast iron.
There's a lot that should have been updated years.
Got through it. All right, let's go into reports so we can go home. Or your commission. Where are we at? Where do we want to start?
Okay.
Corey.
So one of the grants that you had.
Okay.
Grant information, up for review. I don't know if it's for review.
Yes.
For public or for us anyways. And there was one in there, the AARP Community Challenge grant. And John, I think, did you get Lions Club meeting
No.
about the dog park?
Yes.
Or
Yes.
the dog park?
Yes, they did.
Okay. That would fall under that particular grant. Yeah. So, we've put in for, declared a state of emergency. We're potentially gonna get some money for that. There's one item. Nora Bland reached out to all of us, regarding, a master plan, and I don't think anybody just curious to see where we're at with this, with all of our new.
I'm waiting to see from the planning board, so.
I was on the call. They didn't really give recommendations like Alex maybe would have. So I don't know Cody yet, the new planner. I think we should call Cody and ask for actual recommendations.
That's what
They-
my plan was.
they
I
were
didn't want to
like-
put it on the agenda until, so if it's gone to the planning board, I want to see what their recommendations are. On my review, I have some very, pointed questions to ask, so that I feel comfortable, because currently I personally. Anyway.
They were pretty quick. They just said they approved of it and liked it and it was a good, so I think we need to go back to Cody and ask for actual recommendations.
Yeah.
With MMIA, whether or not they would have to have a policy, a separate policy for any violations, and that'll be coming to you later to see, if you would approve it.
And then the farmer's market was mentioned also at the Lions meeting last night. Yeah. The farmer's market.
Not a word was said.
Oh, really?
Really?
Huh.
And I was awake the whole time. Came out for me.
Julie Bartow.
Talked about the dog park.
Oh, okay. And didn't mention the farmer's market?
No.
where the farmer's market takes place versus where the dog park would take place, and that was it.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, I definitely have to visit with the Lions then on that. We want to do the farmer's market in the same place that we did it last year, 28 May through October 1.
All right, who's next?
I have nothing to say.
You got nothing? Who's next?
I just think it might be important to thank DOT for the signs at the end of the south end of town. That was huge. I don't think it's anything that we did to accomplish that, but yay for getting that done. That's huge.
So that they know we appreciate it?
I think we can. I think it's completely appropriate to build that bridge and start building that communications of, hey, you did something good. You should actually know that we appreciate it.
Super appreciate it.
Like, thank you. Instead of saying like it's about time or, say nothing or
Numbers
whatever
on
it
that,
is.
like the big corner in the canyon, then the numbers of like slow down and everything and how dramatically the accidents on that corner came down. I'll be curious to see that because living down there was terrifying and how many times we got hit, and the last hit wiped out the front worse than it ever has. And the silo and the whole nine. The silo had been hit before. And the whole Yeah, I'll be curious to see if that fixes that down there because that was a dangerous corner.
I guess make your own headlines would be the answer to that. That was one of, I don't know. Conference, but make your own headlines or else somebody will make them for you.
Also, being brought up earlier, can we get a date on that? Like, can we know progress or anything?
An update? Okay.
Dated since November. I kind of know where we are. But that's nothing else since then. November, December.
Can I ask a question? And for the record?
Technically, we're not supposed to be doing.
Never mind.
Yeah, report and then public comment.
Never mind, I'll wait.
We'll wait.
We'll follow the rules.
Wait until number 17.
So, but you can ask for update and I will look into what we can and cannot do since this is going to do for our vote.
Okay.
This vote.
Yeah. And then I guess back to my question from last meeting. Like and the medical or the recreational tax, is there anything I can do to?
Oh, the recreational tax? Yeah. I will have that. I have an update there. This is what I'm.
What tax?
Marijuana tax on the bond for
Recreational, yeah.
Did you call it a recreation tax?
Well, the recreational use?
Okay.
Yeah, sorry.
What else you got? What? How was your first plan or your first library?
Library board was meeting was great. And yeah, super excited to see the landscaping and get that done.
Alright. Yeah.
I was going to touch on master plan and then we'll talk about that. It's coming. School bond did pass. We are going to go back to the drawing board. Casey, Mark, Ballman, and Ben all had a meeting, so we're going to hopefully figure something out there.
What do you?
Public feedback.
We try.
Yeah, no.
Hopefully. We're just gonna start over.
It couldn't have been any
Say
more
that
public.
again.
Yeah, I think.
No, but I
agree.
think the first we heard of it and anybody heard of it was when they came to us to take like Charles Street.
That's where they
So
started.
well, there was committees and other stuff and other plans. We didn't show the other plans. We should have shown all the plans. Maybe, I don't
On the
know.
website,
They're all there, but
Yes,
people
they
don't
are.
look.
People don't.
People don't, yeah.
I would look into that more.
Again,
Back in
yes,
order.
streets and location and folders, and when people have more time to look at things and clean things up, it's amazing what you find around here. So again, that will be on the list of things to say in a second.
When is our, do we have any new training sessions coming up?
Check on, there's one in May. Is there not something in Bozeman? It's
In
like-
May, I think it's in
Okay.
May. I'm
Yes,
pretty
that's
sure.
where that's at.
And that's at MSU. She has one first, and then the, commissioner training is in May. She goes to Shoto.
I go to Shoto.
And then there's the clerk and commissioner one
Right.
in May in Bozeman.
Or of something
Hotel
somewhere.
stuff every day, but.
We should
The-
book stuff
for the
and
mayor
do
one.
registration.
Oh, for the mayor one, not for.
Yeah, I think they're getting through the first one since it's always
There
been
is an online.
MSU.
There is an online training. That's new. He told me about at the Alder. And they're working on like an online budget one too.
That would be a
Yeah,
good
but I
one to
haven't-
attend.
I told him I wanted budget training before. he
Yes.
left, So.
I'm
I
like,
keep
I'm
bugging him
like,
about
I need my budget training. That's definitely one that I would like to go to.
That's basically the top of everybody's list. And then, so when I go in March, it's the first week I will really poke into, because.
And you'll learn about all of it.
And MMIA, or who's putting it on, so whose budget.
Did we pay, that last training was $9? People in the rooms we want?
Charge by person.
No.
And maybe a half day was 500. Was that a full, yeah, it was full day, because we had
Yeah.
lunch. So yeah, that's probably it.
I'm still working on CIP. I need to get a hold of Ginger to get the 2014 stuff so that I can start going through that. I did do the reading for whatever that homework that you gave us, trying to create that new ordinance we have to work on.
The pre-treat?
Yes, the pre-treat.
Okay, I have that on my list too.
And
Remind me what CIP is?
capital improvements plan.
You were gonna, you beat me to it. All right.
No. I mean, I just totally. The acronyms and the.
Seriously. That's all.
Da-da-da. Okay, so I guess mine started with a virtual attendance of Local Emergency Planning Committee, also known as LEPC. At the end of January, I wish I had written the date, but I didn't. So we were on the docket for their agenda for the gorge. And so I basically wanted to make it very clear that at that meeting that there was, we declared the state of emergency, there was an incident action plan filed. So while it was unclear to one of the county commissioners that he kind of felt like there wasn't a plan, there is a plan. And LEPC has hold guidelines, this emergency operations guide. And while it says 2011 on the book, even ours in here, annually they update what are called annexation portions, and those are just like, this is the hazardous material one, this is the flooding one, they review them annually so that they're not like, hey, we have to do this whole book. So they pick a couple each year and update and everything else. So from that, basically gonna make sure that we're there and in the loop. Because through that center is where we're gonna see some of that infrastructure portion coming through too. We're very, not so much as in the town, but we've seen what happens when, it's called a rural urban interface and fire occurs. So basically the monument, right? So we know if in the surrounding area, there is a large fire, the Goose Fire, the Creek Fire, the whatever fire it is, town becomes the center, right? We eat town infrastructure. We use the school for a large portion of housing large teams. The type 1 team needs huge amount of internet, water. We ran, if anybody knows this summer, the Goose Fire, there was a good portion where you didn't have much for cell service. Those teams eat up a ton of data. So being at LEPC and knowing what we need or what we can get for infrastructure pieces for us, anticipating, that's not going away. We know fires are not going away, and the town planning for being the hub in the center. And then portions of it, so like if you're going for your school bond and what's this, that, and the other, and know that you are going to house big teams, those are your emergency plans are gonna always revolve around that school. That's the only building that can house anything of any kind of volume. The fire departments have some, we have the generators and solar, but the school is gonna be a hub anytime there's some. That's where we go. So I'll be following up all the time on LEPC. They have a piece that came from a fire here in town that is on their current agenda as well, where they are looking for a county ordinance on propane tanks, and making sure that they are not filled if they are debris ridden, because we had a tank surge, in other words, close to blowing. And it should not have been filled by the propane company. Their service agreement says that they can deny it, but the county is looking at trying to create an ordinance so that those tanks are not filled or cannot be filled in the purpose of protecting firefighters. So we sent that on the listserv and only got one, and it was not very helpful. You have to have a 6-foot fence and boulder around your propane tank. So we're still working on that one. Next one's the 17th, and that's what I know for that. 31st, I met with Mr. Heckler, Commissioner Heckler. He had topics that he wanted to address, so we revisited the gorge again. He wasn't entirely clear on like the opportunity of the marijuana taxation, and so I kind of reviewed that with him. We at some point need to kind of really look at the county ordinance very, very, very desperately. And I said that those two would be beautifully paired together. So he then went back and looked into it and got with the county attorney and so forth. And basically it looks like it's going to be on the November ballot with our portion being ours, and so that we're going to write it
together on the ballot.
so that we're going to go to together on the ballot. So yes, that is, I can see if we're working together, we are going to get a lot more done in a more timely manner and not reinventing the wheel constantly.
We need to look more closely at the county, thinking of opting out of the counties.
Opting out, opting in, figuring out what the people of the town want.
It's set right now.
Now, we are in, so.
We can opt out, okay.
That has not gone back through to the county. Virginia City's asking to be amended out of it. So we've really got.
How long does that take to?
No, it's a letter and some other stuff. Gatewood was on all the meetings and working on it from day one.
But we should make it.
We need to look at the reasons for and against what we really, I've read through it and then back and forth. Decided I'm definitely a girl. I'm never happy about all of anything. Anyway, so along with Heckler's meeting is we have always operated on a nice verbal agreement with the county as to them grading certain sections of a road, and because they have the equipment and this, that, and the other. So we're working on a actually written memorandum of understanding so that it just makes sense. They have the equipment. Why would we go, as a little town, go buy the equipment to go grade our roads? where we can buy a portion of it. And so we're just gonna get a written one, and then we're going to set dates on everything of when they're gonna be reviewed. So every 3 years, memorandum of understanding between the town and the county for street maintenance will be reviewed on da. So that's where that's at. A lot of talk about the water and sewer, and that's how I know that there's still some county ARPA funds that are available, and lots. We've talked with John with water and sewer. You get a lot of conversation and you learn a lot. Our last engineering GIS maps of utilities done by Staley Engineering. I basically asked them if they could share that with county GIS.
Was that a grant?
So, yes, actually it was. And then, so Tommy at County GIS can help print our maps, reprint our maps. He's getting the laminator up so that we don't have to transfer stuff up to him or figure out how to. He'll just print it out, and then we can work on like numbering hydrants. We have dry erase maps. When we find weird pipes that don't exist anywhere else. And then they can be updated in GIS so that we have a consistent. So with meeting with Hector, I had him look at the pre-treat ordinance, and I have a ton of notes for that. And I think it actually simplifies it into language.
Pre-treat stuff?
Yeah, the pre-treat ordinance into a language that's palatable, that I understand. And that people that are not engineers could actually read and go, oh, I have to meet these requirements. So I met with him on that and had him look over the PERS as well, along with sent those to James to review. Let's see. I guess way back when I officially filled the Public Works Director position.
Heckler was good with the first.
Yes.
Okay, good.
Yeah, he had a couple items to point out, as so did James.
Okay.
But they pointed out once that we were at as for contracting, and like they said, they both used the word boilerplate, like it's a lot of boilerplate, and that's exactly what I felt like. The Lions Club, I guess I wrote a letter of support for a grant for them, and this was right as our park was flooding. But their grant was to improve the aerator system, and then a path to connect the current path to the pad where, how do I put that? The deck portion that's by the pond.
Yeah.
The new deck that may or may not be there when it melts. But a path, well, that's supposed to be for handicap accessibility, and it seems really strange that we don't have a path that goes to it. So they have put in for that, and then I wrote a letter for the town. I kind of answered your marijuana one.
But no sooner than.
No. And then remember, as soon as, if it is voted in, we still have
90 days of wait time until you actually can collect money after.
Correct. Let's see what else. If you saw in the zoning report, read fine print, the permit was reviewed and done. So we have, now John and I will pick out a sign or reader board. So as those pumps or everything else that comes up, we will have the reader board. And the reason that we can, there is, because he does her homework diligently and reads the book and finds where, as a government entity, for the purposes that we are after, we don't have to have a permit and variance. So when we read the book and follow the book, it works. Hey, it's just reading the book. I also, I think everybody got a copy, but put in a fragrance-free policy just because employees have reactions to certain perfumes, and for the health and safety of the employees that I oversee, if there's that bad of a reaction, I'm just making it.
Does that include like shave? I guess is that.
It does on the policy.
Yeah, anything that's strong.
Yeah.
I caught myself shaving tonight.
a little bit of old.
Stay away. And it's not, like,
Just say.
I'm just saying,
We
but
don't
like my
need to
daughter.
taste it while we're.
And there's certain bases to certain scents that have allergy components. Really fancy perfume is made out of mink oil. And if you have allergies naturally to pets, it actually is one of those things that can aggravate it to the point of respiratory distress and respiratory emergencies. So let's not go there and just all agree that even though we're a little uncomfortable in our sweatiness, we're just gonna not make anybody break out in hives. Well, nobody should be getting that close to those. Address everything? Did I miss anything? It was everything that I had written on there. Perfect.
You're gonna be in trouble. You forgot to put in claims, by the way.
You can't officially do it then.
Yeah, I know. Like, how am I supposed to approve those?
Oh, they're not.
Not on there. We have to approve claims.
We're gonna have to do a work session.
We do have to do a work session, and I guess we can do that during unscheduled matters.
Yes.
So, unscheduled matters. This is where I go. If we are, business licensing occurs in July.
July.
So we've all seen how lovely of a process ordinance is, right? And to change, repeal, change, this, that, and the other. I highly suggest that we have a work session to start this process. That as I read through, I think this was talked about in February of 2020 and then February of 2021. So let's just keep with the tradition, except for this year it's done. We need to wrap it up and get it done.
Did we find a layout and everything, or do I need to work on that?
I have all the draft recommendations, and I think it's like pile it in, get the ideas out there, and get it worked through. People have been handing me like, this is what someplace does about their VRBOs, and I've had this pile. So we're consolidating our pile, and hopefully we find something good out of it. What else do we have for unscheduled matters? So
So
the
you're
basically
saying work session for business license?
Yes.
That's what I got.
Yes.
He also, sorry.
So this is the unscheduled matters, so we can say that a work session is probably in need for any of these.
Can we suggest things to go on the work session?
Yeah. Review?
The recreational.
Yeah.
You can find it.
But don't have.
No, it's for you guys to make a decision.
You're gonna push
Oh.
that decision?
And also the steers.
Okay, work session. I can see if we can put that one.
Well, we could go with a
Also-
private session too. We have to after the work session to talk about ongoing litigation, if we have to.
Okay.
Danny kind of said you don't have to do that, and it's not smart to ever do that, but if we need to,
Okay.
everything's pretty much covered.
Recreation, and then you said business license. Well, it still looks like it's gonna be.
To support what Nikki and Christian both brought up. The public deserves to know something about ongoing litigation. Clearly, there are things that have to be confidential. What I would request that next month, you include on the agenda some form of report. Yes, it's ongoing and there's a court date, period, done, over with. Tell us what you can tell us. Secondly, zoning board of adjustments. John Hecker resigned in November because he was appointed commissioner. There have been a meeting, we need to meet. Or volunteer to replace him. That person is hanging out there. We have administrative things we need to handle. If there is nothing else that needs to come to the board.
And I think the immediate problem with that is the board hadn't met as an official group other than training. So adopting that chairperson that drives it, I
That's
think
why we
is-
need to meet,
is
so that
there.
we can take care of these housekeeping issues.
Well, there's 3 of you.
It has to be a public meeting. There's 4 of us.
I mean,
Oh,
there's
here now.
3 of you
Yeah.
in the room right now. I think you should give me a date and I should set a public meeting and we should just be there.
Do it. No, I'm here next week.
Tony?
And yeah, I didn't want to call you because I saw your pictures just rubbing it in of everything else. Yeah.
Yeah, next week is good.
It's Wednesday at 10 o'clock.
In the morning? I can't. I mean, 10 o'clock Wednesday. Let's do it.
Wednesday
I'm
the
sorry,
16th
please
at
don't
10
take care of
o'clock.
That's enough time to.
There. All right. Basically, I have to create some kind of agenda for that and then, I don't know. Winging it because like there's no chair and I'm not on it and.
Can we get the nominee in that meeting too?
You
At
can
the
nominate
end of the
and vote on
agenda?
it. So I will talk with you guys about what we need on the agenda so that we're ready for that. Okay?
And lastly, still zoning board of adjustments. If I recall correctly, it's. And there used to be a big zoning map on the wall.
It's in the hallway.
Cool. Gotcha. Done.
Also, Eric had the guys put up and it'll have
Okay.
projects on there too, so.
Awesome.
So that everybody, like Public
Yeah.
Works, everybody can kind of walk through and
We're
see
getting
where
there.
we're at.
Yes, you are.
Anything else on the unscheduled? As we're trying to like, again, project in the future and make sure that we're there, for the work session, would like to also have the pre-treat on there. And I keep counting that because I really see that.
It takes
as-
forever to do this stuff.
It takes forever to do this,
And we should have it in
and
place by summer.
that lagoon is very sensitive. I mean, it is like our teenage child. Thing needs. So anyway, that'll be on the work session. So marijuana, recreational litigation, business licenses. Claims.
Claims once through email or
Yeah.
something. She
Yeah.
sent us an email, we just voted back. So she has to send stuff up, I think she.
Okay.
Because she'll be way behind.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and there are items that are on the claim sometimes that have
If I'm not receiving some emails, right to Brittany or Ginger or Brittany.
I have one more
John
comment.
does our IT, so.
Okay.
John Moore.
Okay.
I don't know, but
Because I
I
never
should
seen
ask,
anything
should have done this
from-
during my commissioner comments, or if you want to do it, whatever. But the lighting at the school monument, we need to, I don't know, when we talk to the school or town, but it's pointed directly at the intersection, and it is blinding at night.
And it's pointing down towards the rodeo when we pull out of there too. There's like, it's like the
They
lights
change
must have
them?
got adjusted or something, cause they're like spotlights now.
Yeah.
And they need to be maybe pointed down. You
Down.
are right. Yeah.
I have
noticed that
no
when I
idea
walk
who
around
you
shooting
talked to
stuff.
about that.
We have who owns what now, right? We can look at that.
VFW owns it.
They gotta be on some.
Look on Onyx and see who.
VFW owns the squares and everything. I don't know who owns it.
What?
Um,
They just put.
School up keeps it, they do plow, nobody really plows that or does the stairs, but,
Robert Sino,
that's what I was gonna say, I have his cell phone number.
he used to be,
Yeah, I know, random, I bartended for a year and a half, he was daily.
I don't know if you want to put that on the work session or if we can just
That's
figure
just a
that out.
housekeeping item of, need to look into, that's not
I don't know
like
if
a
Yeah.
legislative portion that just needs to be
But
expanded.
it's suddenly like.
Yeah, it's suddenly very blinding.
Yeah.
Where?
Very much so.
Okay.
The monument.
The
Where
monument
we
over
at?
there at the school.
Anything else for the work session that, I mean, I'm kind of looking at you three specifically, because you've gone around the wheel in this, as I go through old stuff.
Yeah, what stuff do we need to be working on?
There's little ruts that have been going in circles and circles and circles, so what can you think of that needs to be done by July? Because speak now or forever hold your peace. I'm working on budget, I have budget dates with Ginger started, so.
We cannot put the marijuana thing on the main.
It's county, I'm pretty sure it's on county. Ginger sent it out to us in an email, so Ginger might have it scanned in too.
Yeah,
No,
I'm
this was a long time ago.
Yeah, I'm not
When they
getting
first did
emails
it.
at it.
I went and looked it up on the county and that's how I got it, because I was like.
It's on the county website, but Ginger did send it to us at one point, because I had it printed out.
I'll make sure that they're prepped in there, so it's a work session, so we can finally go home. Anything else?
So employee wages, something that we had promised when we approved the
That is a good one
libraries.
to look at.
And that's totally budget related.
And that's part of the business license, I think, is what we're doing there.
How about?
Little bikes, finishing it off, being done.
I feel
So-
you. I mean, I got my hands in nothing, but I feel the same about my stuff.
That was good, all right. Since there's no claims.
You guys put it on?
Yeah, we just noticed that, and we can't vote on something that's not on the agenda, so we'll have to do it via email. Really?
Is anybody gonna second that?
Oh, second, sorry, I'm so lost right now. Thinking about a massage, I was not gonna get. Yeah, you can go have your massage now.
Aye.
Aye.
Sorry, Nikki.
Over and over and over, because I know I'm gonna miss something, and I feel like I'm constantly.
Nikki, do you have,
Sorry.
Got it,
You
and
got
then, well, and
I need
then
your second number.
it showed up saying I got a new email, but it's not as well. And I also didn't get any of the stuff from, those huge documents.
See, if
She was
Maria
darn
left.
fast.
did you
She
get
did.
any
She's-
from Ginger regarding the meeting?
Yeah.
Got rescheduled.
So what happened when I texted her when I emailed?
Looked on the
Yeah,
calendar.
it showed up.
Yeah.
Oh, like, yeah.
Oh, it is?
No.
But
That's not a fair thing.
Oh, yeah.
everyone's covered up with that.
Well, I understand. Anyhow, it should be settled. It's a lot of money.
Settled a long time ago.
Why do I not have, will you let my husband know that the meeting's out? I don't know why I don't have.
Well, your fries.
Nice job, guys.
supposed to be fun. We should have let everybody know the joke, the work session joke. So we
It did
did.
make it funny, there was a lot of good crap.
So during work session, and we all have to explain the jokes sometimes. So we're like, we noticed that like everything happened in 2007. Like this was done, this was done, this was done.
I guess
Like by the end of this session, we're gonna be the new legacy. So every once in a while, we're just gonna yell out Subaru. 579.
She's pineapple, which one are you?
Banana.
Yeah, that's right.
There's.
From basket.
Yeah. Never called them, okay, 579 what?
57.
Yeah, but you have to what?
Why will my phone not come up with a network?
Do you have to reboot it?
I
You have
just
to
did.
restart. Oh.
And even like stop at the yellow bar, he was like, show me the.
Thank you for digging that out. I don't know how.
As long as it was permanent.
It's in my bedtime.
I agree.
And I was like, I don't want it to still through 7:30 so I can finish my ball game.
They won. Just, they did win. They won
Did
by.
Izzy get to play again? Really?
She's got that little playtime.
I'm kind of cranky with them.
Yeah,
a little bit.
she was really upset when I got there because I missed the third quarter.
When
he gets to be this late. No, unfortunately.
I was surprised when I was
But Eric's. Yeah. So, send it back there and actually get recommendations.
Change that, typo.
Right.
So. Give it to me.
Oh, I agree.
It's stupid to spend the money on. It should be on, but we turned it off. Karen was talking, I turned it off, because I think that's the feedback.
Yeah.
It echoes. In all honesty, everything's gonna echo feedback wise, because that.
Right.
So you either do one or the other, but then we tried to not do these, and nobody could hear that night.
Can you turn that one off?
No. No, it's always fun, I think it's 24/7.
I don't remember.
Hey, Christy.
Everything's no. Can I read something? No.
Yes.
My job description.
Right? I'm slowly adapting to this new thing, and I love it. I'm gonna pee before we go. And then this one. PDF.
I didn't drink any.
Not very tech savvy, so this is so much water. Coolest thing.
Nice, how have you been?
Good, how about you?
Not too bad. A busy agenda, but it's. Yeah, and I like the post
Thank you.
session even better because I was like.
I like how that. It's open discussion, where you can interact.
Sure. Yeah.
His number, and I have no idea what I have it saved under because it was so long ago, but he comes in like once or twice a week for a burrito. I'm using it on camera.
Yeah, and then we can just say we've had a couple of complaints that it's blinding people, so we adjust them to